talk about with any authority is why I scrapbook. And since I live in a part of the world where most people have never heard the word scrapbook as a verb, I have to start with, what is a scrapbook? Well, a scrapbook is a book filled with photos that some might call a photo album, and they would put their photo album on their bookshelf or on their coffee table, and that's it. That's done for them. But some people want more. We take photos and memorabilia and journaling and pretty paper, and we put all that together to make pages, which we then put together to form an album, and we put that on the coffee table, and we call that a scrapbook. And we call ourselves scrapbookers. Well, what's a scrapbooker? Well, a scrapbooker is a person who puts all those photos and memorabilia and journaling and pretty paper together to make a scrapbook. And scrapbookers have a stereotype. That stereotype says a scrapbooker should be female, enjoy taking pictures but not appearing in them. She should have children or grandchildren that star on all her scrapbook pages, and this is why she has an inexplicably large collection of pretty paper ready for any occasion. That's pretty much it. So you would expect, if you open some scrapbooks, to find photos of children or grandchildren, and usually not the scrapbooker, and piece after piece of pretty paper. Well, that was once upon a time. Today we don't have to conform to a stereotype. I don't fit that stereotype. I'm supposed to scrapbook my children, but I don't have any children, and definitely no grandchildren. Once upon a time, this was such an unbelievable concept that an actual real live scrapbooker sitting across the table at a crop asked with all seriousness, if you aren't married and you don't have children, what would you have that's worth putting in a scrapbook? Seriously. So I opened my scrapbook and I showed her those once upon a time pages I made that were just like anyone else's pages of Christmas and trips to the beach. Oh, and that time I had to learn to dance with a telephone receiver for the school play. I explained that although I didn't have children, she could look at my pages and read my stories to learn about me. I had no idea it was such a rare concept all those years ago. But this has changed. We know it's okay to tell our stories. We even know what we're supposed to scrap about ourselves, right? We've been paying attention to all that's been written about scrapping yourself, and we know our scrapbook should cover certain things. Like my scrapbook should have pages that explain that I'm Chanel, I grew up here, but I lived here for more than 10 years. That I was born on the 8th of October 1977, which means I don't remember this guy or this guy, but I do remember this guy and this guy. That I'm a Libra, so you know I've changed my mind about which 4 guy to include approximately 11 billion times. My scrapbook should explain that my name is Shamel, not Shlemiel or Shlemazel, that my name isn't exotic or foreign, it's just plain old made up. My scrapbook should show that I went to school here and here and here, that these teachers made a difference in my life, that my first job was at the Dairy Queen, where on the first day they told me, you'll hate ice cream. But I never did, so I ate ice cream every single day that I worked there, and I still wish I could. My scrapbook should somehow explain that my current job involves this and this and this, and is far more fun than anything in the classifieds. My scrapbook should explain that I have a nephew who lives very, very far away, as well as a brand new one I'm excited to meet. They should explain that I love cupcakes and baking, which I learned from my grandma. My scrapbooks should explain that these are my favorite films, these are my favorite books, and these are my favorite bands. That I love coffee and concerts and Iceland and Japan, and there's a good reason why this boy appears on so very many of my scrapbook pages. We know our scrapbook should cover all that, and if we compare that back to once upon a time, well, this is what we call progress. So now it's time to reevaluate. Time to ask ourselves, why do we scrapbook? Is it to document, to celebrate, to create? And how do we scrapbook? With paper, or do we scrapbook digitally? Do we blog, or all of the above? And maybe it's time to pay attention to the changing answer of who will read our scrapbooks. Are we writing to just us? To our friends and family? Or with the internet, are we writing to the entire world? What's your answer? Think of it this way. You have to walk up to a stranger on the street and convince the stranger to scrapbook. You have to sell them on the idea. What comes out most important for you? What would you mention? Photography, writing, design, pretty paper, or making friends and having fun? But wait, does that make scrapbooking seem frivolous, or maybe even silly? Because there's another side to scrapbooking. We don't often see it at first. We don't talk about it. But scrapbooking makes us take stock. We have moments when we ask, what if I could never scrapbook again? What if I could never communicate again? And a bunch of other what ifs. And as scary as those what ifs can be, that stuff is important. And so is pretty paper. The truth is that scrapbooking is more complex from the inside perspective. Scrapbooking is about striking a balance between something very fun and some things that are very important. A balance between what we do for us and what we do for the benefit of others. Scrapbooking is not about instructions or competition or spending lots of money on supplies or having a gigantically perfect scrapbook room. Scrapbooking is about freedom and making pretty things by hand, discovery of like-minded individuals, and our own personal growth for us. And it's about communicating important things to others. All that, this is why I scrapbook.